Stanford, I didn't screw up. I fucked up. And I don't use the word fuck up lightly. This one was a doozy. It's a couple days before Frosh move-in 2014. My dad figured we should all drive up the coast on a last-minute family vacation. Sounded good at first, but oh yeah, forgot to mention my mom had end-stage cancer. Fun times. So halfway through that trip, she fell ill and had to be admitted to a hospital, but I still had to go to college, so my dad drove me up and we left my mom behind. It's safe to say I wasn't particularly stoked for move-in day. I was literally the last kid to show up at the dorm, and sure, I wanted to make new friends, but it couldn't have been a worse time. My mom's condition deteriorated, and she had to be transported via ambulance to the Stanford hospital. But hey, at least my parents were around now. The first Monday night of classes rolls around, when the freshmen go apeshit, and I was determined to forget about my shitty situation. The night was young. All the people around me were eager to hit the frats, and I was ready to join. I just wanted to be a normal college kid who could party. So, remember those online Think About It courses that we had to take before coming here? Well, I sure didn't, because I was going hard. Maybe it was to impress my peers, maybe it was in an effort to block out my life, who knows? But around 8 p.m., I was thoroughly tipsy. I got separated from my group and bumped into an acquaintance who pulled out a bar of chocolate about yay big, and I could clearly see a marijuana leaf printed on the packaging. Now, on a normal day, I probably would have declined the offer, but this was the first night of real college. This was a new Elisa, the one that would be the party animal. So you know what I did? I had about this much. So those of you who aren't familiar with edibles, let me give you a quick rundown. That is a metric fuck ton of concentrated marijuana. About an hour in, I was gonna have the night of my life. I regrouped with my dorm mates, and together we went to the row. Tick, tick, tick. Passed by the Cardinal Knights event, laughing about how drunk we were in comparison. Tick, tick. Get to the row, only to find out nothing's actually going on. Tick. Bam! That edible hit me like a train. I was literally on my knees, having a panic attack, thinking my mom had died. Somehow I got my shit together and convinced my group I was fine, but walking back to the dorm felt like I was pushing through a vat of syrup, and I forgot how to speak English. When we got back, I suddenly remembered one random fact from those Think About It courses. If you drink alcohol and fall asleep, you could asphyxiate on your vomit and die. So here I was in this weird zone of fighting off death and wanting to give in to impending unconsciousness. Not a good place to be. After an eternity in the bathroom, on the brink of collapse, the RAs became understandably concerned and asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. Using the only form of communication I could muster up, I nodded my head. So kids, that's how I became the first transport of the school year. At the emergency room, the EMTs were hilariously incompetent at sticking an IV in my arm. The look on my dad's face, though, coming to the ER from my mom's room a few stories above, well, that was not so hilarious. Eventually, the EMTs handed me off to my dad. No big deal. They may as well have poured gasoline on me and lit me on fire because he was ready to kill me. He carried me up to my mom's room where she lay in her hospital bed, hooked up to IVs and strange beeping machines, and she looked at me like I was a pathetic wannabe. I mean, here she was on the verge of death, yet she was so angry she was ready to take me with her. My mom had raised me to respect myself, not to simply become a label or stereotype. and I had let her down. Despite the chewing out I was getting, I slept like a baby that night. Maybe all I had wanted was to spend the night with my family, and my subconscious just thought of a really fucked up way to make it happen. I had to make the walk of shame back to my dorm the morning after, hospital bracelet included, and even though everyone at the dorm was really nice about it, I felt like they just saw me as a transport. Even my parents thought I was just a burnout, and that hurt the most. It was that day I decided I would never let anything so mortifying happen to me again. I worked hard to prove to my dorm mates that I deserve to be here, that I'm an intelligent, kind, funny person who doesn't always make poor decisions, always being the key word. I worked to make strong connections with the people around me, a characteristic my mom valued most in her own life. And even though she passed away a few months later, I think she forgave me. Sorry. I'm not done yet. Hold up. This is a tough thing. She never got to see it, but I became a new Elisa, a successful Stanford student who still goes to parties occasionally, but seeks to understand who someone is as a whole, not the label that they are assigned. I would only hope that people do the same for me, because I am more than a transport. Thank you.